When you take a look at games that defined an entire generation, more often than not you will find classics like The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario, Final Fantasy, and action games like Metal Gear Solid. But no matter how much of a cultural impact these games ended up having, none of them really took over the world in a way that the game I'm about to cover in this video has done. GTA 3. Released in October 2001 for the PlayStation 2 and developed by DMA Design, now known as Rockstar North, this game was one of the most important releases in gaming history, as it ended up introducing a fully 3D open world, which was a first for the series. The game quickly became a massive hit, selling over 14.5 million copies worldwide. Now, of course, as with every Rockstar game, the release of this particular title wasn't without its controversy, as its depiction of violence, crime, and mature themes sparked multiple debates and even led to lawsuits and bans in several countries. Despite its groundbreaking nature, GTA 3 is a game that was obviously made at a time where there wasn't much thought about map design, directions, or even care for what the person holding the joystick felt about the game. And it shows. It's a game made specifically for people that grew up with the arcadey style of the previous GTA games. Hell, even looking at it from the top-down perspective, this game feels like it belongs to that era more than it belongs into the 3D era, and that is directly reflected in the gameplay. The gameplay feels absolutely janky at times, with no autosave, no directions, and the worst shooting out of any GTA game. Before covering more of the game's flaws, talking about why some people love it and some hate, let's take a look into the story of GTA 3. Okay, so I'll keep this short as I'm pretty sure most of you are already familiar with the game's story. So our silent protagonist Claude Speed is betrayed at the start of the game by his insane lover and crime partner Catalina. Yes, the same Catalina our poor boy CJ had to deal with in GTA San Andreas. From there, Claude is taken into custody and somehow by pure luck escapes once the cartel ambushes his prison convoy and blows up the bridge, forcing him and 8-Ball to flee to a nearby hideout. If you're asking yourself who the fuck is 8-Ball, I honestly have no clue. They just escaped together. Whatever. Now, from here on out, the story basically becomes a generic go here, do this, kill this guy, steal this car, take this car to this location, and so on and so forth type of story. Until, of course, at the end of the game, Claude ends up killing Catalina by blowing up her helicopter. The end. While not really a complex story and is only basically there to give players some kind of objective to complete, it still has some very nice characters that Claude ends up meeting along the way. For instance, Tony Cipriani, Joni Leone, Kenji, Asuka, Donald Love, all of them have at least some kind of depth that overall just feels like it's missing from this game. With that said, let's see what this game did that ended up cementing it into the classic that it is today. First of all, I want to say that I really like this game, and I love the fact that you can complete any mission in any particular way that you see fit. But I absolutely hate the fact that by the third act of the game, Claude is hated by basically every single faction in all of Liberty, making your experience an absolute pain in the ass, especially if you left some of the payphone missions for later. Well, all I'm gonna say is, good luck completing those after everyone starts shooting you on sight. Before moving on, I want to say that the mission design is overall fine, but the fact that the car physics along with the fact that your car can take approximately 5 bumps before it catches fire and explodes into tiny pieces is the dumbest thing that I've ever seen and makes completing some of the missions unnecessarily hard. One thing I really like about this game is the atmosphere, as it has a particular dark and eerie atmosphere which adds to the overall art style. Now, let's talk about the map. The map is relatively small with no real way of navigating it unless you memorize the paths you need to take. But despite that, I have to say that most of the time it's a very nice experience to drive around. Of course, when you're not getting blown to bits by the Leones, Triads, Yakuzas, or Colombians. For me personally, the second island Claude ends up on, which is Staten Island, is the best part of the game, and it's a shame the final act uses Shoreside Vale as a set for the finale. Of course, a big complaint on my end is that even though most of the objectives have you go to Shoreside Vale, the actual missions start mostly in Staten Island, having you drive way longer than you actually need to complete some of the missions. And if you by any chance fail along the way, well, too bad, as you have to either reload to be closer to your mission start or drive back a long way to redo the mission. Looking back at the game now, having played it after 10 years of beating it the last time, I can't really say that I've enjoyed my playthrough. I still like the game and think it will always be a classic, something that I will hold dear to my heart forever, but the clunky animations, the fact you get busted very easily and sometimes even an accident, the paperweight cars, the arcadey driving that feels like it belongs to GTA 1 and 2, and just overall lack of anything to do other than complete story missions, makes this game feel like a bare-bone version of everything that came after it. Yes, it is a fine game for its time. It was groundbreaking and changed the landscape of open-world crime games, but overall, when you compare this game to Liberty City Stories, for instance, you can see that it did not age well. And the more time goes on, this game will absolutely lose its magic. Now, of course, it won't lose the magic for everyone, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will still love this game even 20 years from now, but anyone who ends up having the chance to play this game will hate it once they realize there's nothing in this game worth coming back to. The story is lacking, as it's basically a simple revenge story intertwined with multiple characters that give clawed missions to add to the playtime. The gameplay is sometimes broken, with the AI being total idiots throughout. The mission design, albeit very open-ended, still feels like it was made for you to suffer, and of course, the music and radio stations were great, but compared to Vice City, San Andreas, and even GTA 4, it comes off as only okay, and not something that will stick in your head, other than maybe push it to the limit. Now, I will say that the game's soundtrack is amazing though, and I will give it that, and it definitely invokes a sense of nostalgia. For that alone, I would say that this game is a 9 out of 10. It is a good game, but it's stuck beneath a large number of issues that, for someone who grew up with the games from the current generation or even games from the past few generations, can be considered the Dark Souls of GTA games. It's a lot harder than GTA Vice City or San Andreas, but most of that comes from the fact that there's no autosave or checkpoint options. Now, the Definitive Edition does fix those issues at the expense of everything else, but even there you can see just how bare-boned compared to the other GTA games it really is. With no asset missions, no safe houses to actually purchase, no clothes to buy or even change into, a city that feels incomplete due to Shoreside Rail being just an airport and a dam, and just overall the lack of anything to spend your money on makes this game feel very dated. And even though it does feel like this, I can't say that I hate this game. I understand why some folks might hate it. I see why people find certain things frustrating, and trust me, I hate a lot of those same things, especially when you're close to completing a particular mission, only to get blown up at the last second, or get busted because of the cops being lunatics disregarding the safety of the citizens of Liberty City. It's a very frustrating game with no real payoff in the end. I mean, except killing Catalina, but it doesn't provide the satisfaction like when you finally kill Sonny Forelli or even Tenpenny in GTA San Andreas. Here, it just doesn't feel rewarding to kill Salvatore Leone, as it comes out of nowhere, especially when he betrays you. Same with Asuka and Kenji and pretty much every single person you end up killing. In this game, you play as a character that has no personality, and I understand that maybe those were the limitations at the time, but this really takes away from the overall experience, making Claude seem like a total psychopath that will do anything that he's told to. And maybe in some way, this is Rockstar mocking the player himself, telling you that you are doing this and not Claude. Whatever it is, I know that the story, the gameplay, and even the general mission design is not as good when compared to the games that came after it. Other than the start of the game and ending, the entire plot feels like a filler episode, only there to give you something to do, not really progressing you anywhere until you actually meet Catalina again and start an island later in the game. It's a very bland experience compared to games that came after it, and I fully see why someone would love the game as is, as it's challenging, has interesting characters, and a dark tone which some folks really like. I mean, hell, it's nice to sometimes just be able to hop on and do the missions instead of having to check your phone, get calls from Lester, Roman, or even bloody Caesar telling you that
The Yay leaving San Fierro, right?
Right, but they're using bikes, CJ, and they go cross-country.
it's a game that you can love or you can hate, and you honestly won't be wrong in either case. It has enough of things for each side to use as arguments. It's a game that is both great and terrible at the same time. A game that is a masterpiece but is also overrated as hell. But it's a groundbreaking release made way for all of the clones that came after it. If it wasn't for this game, there wouldn't be a Mafia series, a Saints Row series, nor would we have the opportunity to see Tony Montana in an actual video game. It's a special game, but with special needs, and by special needs I mean you really need to pay special attention to how each mission is set up, to learn how to actually approach every single situation. Unless you want to, of course, repeat the same mission for hours on end. Before finishing off this video, I want to say that it is a good game. Yeah, it is, but depending on who you ask. as a lot of people will tell you that this game is the worst experience they've ever had, and I fully understand from where they're coming from, as I've had multiple instances where I felt the same way. Is it a bad game? No, not at all. Well, if you can ignore all the shortcomings, janky animations, horrible cops, and a terrible navigation system, it's actually pretty good. For its time, of course. But 23 years later, it has arrived at a point where Rockstar has to either remake this game from the ground up or risk having it being remembered by the horrible defective edition.
No! God, please, no!
It's a shame that after all this time, this game, along with the others from the 3D trilogy, never got the proper remasters they've deserved. One thing I've always dreamed of, especially when I saw that they would remaster the original trilogy, is to have all three major games merged into one large multiplayer map, which would serve as an online component for phones or handheld consoles. Honestly, just imagine the money Take-Two could make if they actually dedicated a team for this particular purpose and remastered those games the right way. It would be the ultimate way of preserving these games while giving mobile users a chance to enjoy GTA Mobile, where they could create their own character in the same style as San Andreas multiplayer lets you do. Man, just thinking about this makes me sad after realizing what they've actually done. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and feel free to let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Did you like GTA 3? Did you even play it? What are your experiences with this title? Be sure to check out the other videos on my channel, and make sure to click that subscribe button and stay tuned for future releases. Thank you for watching this long, and thank you so much for your support. Also, a big thank you goes out to all 208 of my subscribers. I'm absolutely blown away that we managed to cross the 200 mark. A big shout out to all of you. Stay silly, and I'll see you in the next video.